Brian Kinney, 5 seasons CrossFit, lesson 22. We're talking about having multiple skill levels in a single class. So let's first take a look here at our workout. It's a 14-minute AMRAP of 7 thrusters, followed by 7 toes to bar, and then 7 handstand push-ups. And we're looking at about 6 to 8 rounds here for this workout, so about a round every 2 minutes or so, depending on the individual skill level, fitness level, and then how much they went about scaling it. So if we move over here to our athletes, we have our beginner here, Jill, then our intermediate athlete, Jeremy, and then our advanced athlete, Cliff. So if we take Jill first, she's going to be looking at kind of working here with the first regular push-up, so not worrying about being in any sort of an inverted position or being upside down or anything like that, just making sure that we first have the ability to support ourselves through a full range of motion push-up. So starting with a locked out elbow at the top of the rep, getting chest all the way to the ground, and then finishing back at full lockout of the elbow. So from there, if we can do that with, again, proficiency and hitting a full range of motion, we'll then move into a pike handstand push-up where our hips are elevated slightly, hands and feet are still on the ground, but we're trying to get into more of, again, that kind of inverted position where we are pressing more in a vertical manner. So emphasis here is still going to be the range of motion. So making sure that she has the ability to start with her elbow locked at the top of the rep, get her head all the way to the ground, so making contact like we would on any other version or variation of a handstand push-up, and then again pressing back to full lockout of that elbow. So that's going to be Jill's progression here, starting first with that push-up, and then moving into more of that inverted position with our pike handstand push-up, which will again still be done from the ground. So moving on then to Jeremy, who again is our intermediate athlete here, definitely has the ability and strength to get into more of an upside down position, more of an inverted position. We're going to move him to the box for his box handstand push-ups. So making sure that we first have that box set at an appropriate height for him so we can get into, again, full range of motion. We still want to start with that elbow locked at the top of the rep, being able to get our head all the way to the ground, and then returning back to a locked out elbow. We also want to focus with him on his sequence of movements, so making sure as he lowers his head down to the ground that we have those elbows tracking back where we can get into the bottom in kind of that tripod position where hands are placed in front of the face, heads behind the hands, mimicking more of like kind of an overhead press, and then returning again back to full extension of the elbow, but making sure we have our hands placed in a way that as we lower the head down, again, elbows are tracking into the strongest position possible for him to safely complete his reps and complete his set of handstand push-ups. So again, Jeremy will be on the box for his movement. And then lastly, we have Cliff here. Again, advanced athlete can perform all workouts as written, as prescribed. We're going to have Cliff up on the wall, so he will be in a completely supported position there. Again, adding any sort of mats that he may need just for safety purposes underneath of his head, making sure that we're not just going on the ground or anything like that with his handstand push-ups. And the biggest thing here with Cliff is going to be making sure, since we have more moving parts with his reps, with his handstand push-ups, that we do get the sequence of movement down here. So first one is going to be obviously kicking up to the wall, making sure that rep starts. Again, locked out elbow at the top. Only thing that we want to see in contact with the wall at the top of his rep is going to be that his heels are in contact with the wall. And then as he lowers himself down and moves through his reps, again, making sure that the sequence of movements follows suit. So as he lowers himself down to the ground, again, we want to maintain that same sort of tripod position in the bottom that we were talking about with Jeremy being on his box. So making sure that he lowers his head behind his hands, so we have hands in front of the face. And since these are written to be kipping handstand push-ups, there's just an added movement in there, or added piece that needs to be considered, which is what his hips and legs are doing during his reps. So again, the sequence of things after he's lowered himself to the ground, he's on the ground safely in a supported position, that when he closes his hip in order to kip, we think about pushing our lower back against the wall, totally closing that hip, allowing us to produce as much power as possible with each rep. Closing his hip, like I said, bringing his knees to his chest, and then as we kick or kip out of the bottom of that rep, thinking about up and back so we don't drift away from the wall as we move through our range of motion on our reps. Heels finish, again, in contact with the wall, elbows locked out, and then we continue on with our reps in that manner. So again, emphasizing the sequence of movements here, and then also as we continue to move through our reps with Cliff, making sure that his movement efficiency is on point as well. So not adding any extra movement in anywhere or kind of removing or getting too far removed from that proper sequence or proper order of movements, so we don't waste any energy or have anything that may potentially lead to a no rep or us breaking sooner than we were anticipating with our set. So again, hitting the sequence of things, not adding in any extra movement, and being as efficient as possible, getting on and off of the wall. So those will be our three athletes that we have, the three progressions for them based on their individual needs. So